Hey there, and welcome to your GG Replay for Monday, August 9th, 2021. GG Replay is a Monday, Wednesday, Friday podcast where we break down the latest in gaming news. Hosted by us, the Goodnight Groofs, a place for games and a place for goofs. We're still workshopping the slogan. I am Paul, and we are joined, as always, by Matt. How are you doing on this fine, beautiful Monday, Matt?
I'm good. I think I just heard it start raining like a couple minutes ago, and I love a good rain. So this is gonna keep me going throughout the podcast.
I love it. Just the sound of rain.
The sweet, calming sound of the rain hitting the roof. Yes, it's very nice.
Trickling, the ambiance. Just waiting for you to like fall asleep on the on the table, or just pee your pants. One of the two. It's one of the two always.
It's binary.
Perfect. Binary, yeah, exactly. All right, I think we're ready. We have so many great things to talk about today, so let's jump right into it. I feel like we came off of Friday, we had the soda discussion. Now we're on Monday, we gotta pop in there. So just a reminder, if you have any corrections or comments of anything you hear from us, please feel free to head down to the YouTube comments below and make a note of that, or head over to your email and type in ggrepplayshow@gmail.com and send us an email to correct us, because we're probably wrong about everything, but no one's told us, so we think we're geniuses. That's just the facts at this point.
Paul, before you move on, real quick, I have to ask: did you listen to the last episode when you got up to go to close the door?
I actually didn't listen to what you said to me.
you got to go back.
I forgot. I will. Okay, that's a little Easter egg. So if no one else listened to, there's like a little secret thing in there. All right, so the reviews are in, Matt, and we have some good reviews today. Some interesting stuff, a little out there.
Yeah.
First off, Jupiter Hell, which is a roguelike strategy RPG. It's like isometric. That is an 81 on OpenCritic, and that's out right now. That game is pretty wild. From what I saw, it was kind of like a spiritual successor to Doom. There was like this Doom thing that someone made that was like an isometric Doom game, and it was like a roguelite. And they, based on rights, they actually made it into a full-fledged game from a mod, and then based on the rights, they had to call it DRL instead of Doom, whatever. I forget what it was called. It was called Doom Roguelike, I think. And they couldn't use Doom, so they called it DRL. And a lot of people are saying this basically is like a prettier version of that game, and kind of a spiritual successor to that. So I mean, it looks 100% like nothing I would play. It seems like there might be an interesting story, but I think the main draw is that you can blow stuff up in a really cool way in a fun roguelike. So awesome. Matt, anything in this game really stand out to you or seem like something you might play?
No. It looks like an awesome game for someone who would be into this. Like it looks cool. I wish it's something that I would like. It's one of those things. But yeah, I mean, nothing about this interests me at all.
It looks really polished for what it is, which it sounds like. Yeah, it's just a really polished version of this kind of Doom mod thing. So awesome. Love to see it. And a cool name, Jupiter Hell. That's a badass name.
It is a badass name.
That's really cool. Now, here's something I think you might be into. This game, Toodee and Topdee. It's a 2D 3D puzzle platformer game. This looks so cool. It got a 78 on OpenCritic, which is very good, very admirable. Out now. This looks like a freaking blast. If you haven't seen the trailer or anything for it, go check it out, because it's hard to explain. But essentially, it's almost like like one of those games like Rayman Legends or Mario, like Cappy. There's like things where you have like a different little character who helps you out, and essentially you go between playing a character who exists in a 2D space to a character who exists in like a top-down 3D space, 2.5D space, and you have to help each other based on the physics of moving around between those two spaces. It looks like a really fun puzzle game. I don't know if I'll pick it up, but I feel like if it comes out to in some way, if it's like a free Epic game at some point or it's on Game Pass, I'll probably give it a try. It looks like a really fun thing, really novel idea too. I like that idea of moving between the different perspectives.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of changing perspectives like that in games. I really like when Mario Odyssey does it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like that mechanic.
Yeah, I forgot they did that.
Because I'm not really going to be super interested in a traditional 2D platformer. You know me, I love a good 3D platformer. Huge fan of that. The 2D stuff, so a lot of times their big calling card is that they're difficult. And it's not that I'm like not willing to play a game that's a little difficult. It's just that's sort of what their bread and butter is, and that's not necessarily my jam.
Yeah,
but
it's
this
the thing
one
that makes it. It's not your jam, and that's their bread and butter. I really
yeah, there you go. But this one, yeah, like you said, it's trying to do something a little bit different. So I don't think it's necessarily relying on like a super steep difficulty level. At least that I know of. I could be totally wrong on that, but it does look fairly interesting.
It reminded me of kind of like Monument Valley or some of those things where you'd like move the space around to like move where things go and things like that.
Or Fez.
Or Fez, yeah, 100%. I think it's really cool. Again, I don't know if I'm gonna play it, but the names are cute too. Toodee and Topdee is like the characters is really adorable.
It does look really cute. Yeah.
It really feels like almost like a Rare game or something like that, but maybe from like 20 years ago. But it's really cool. We'll have to see. But it looks like it got good reviews. So
it's on Game Pass. I don't know. Maybe it's on PC Game Pass.
It is on Game Pass.
Is it? No, I said if it is.
Oh. If it is,
it's on. I know it's on Steam. I don't know if it's on PC Game Pass, but if it is, or if it comes, maybe I'll be interested. But I don't think I'm going to pay for it.
Yeah, I don't know either. But
if you want to send us a code and we'll talk about it on Game Groofs.
Yeah, absolutely. We would be happy to talk about this game on Game Groofs. All right, moving on. We got a lot of news today. First thing is first. I'm the realist. Take-Two Interactive's most recent financial report claims that they have three unannounced remakes or remasters, could be either, coming next year. Wow, yeah, that's right. That is three, Matt.
That's number 3.
I love it. Now, the rumors are currently pointing to, these are just rumors, toward franchises like BioShock, Grand Theft Auto, Borderlands, or Red Dead Redemption. So basically all the hits. Wow, what a rumor. All the biggest stuff. We're seeing more specific leaks that could be for things like GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, or something like that, or maybe some stuff in Red Dead 1 being remastered, maybe in something that looks like Red Dead 2. I think this is particularly interesting because it really trends in a little bit to what we were talking about on Friday, which is that whole thing with the Mass Effect Legendary Edition and how popular that was. And how there isn't like a lot of good single player only games that exist. And like I think a lot of the ones we're going to see are remasters of games that did that, because at this point they don't want to pour millions and millions of dollars into a new one because it's not as, financially viable as a games as a service game. So maybe that's kind of what they're trying to hit here. They're trying to get their own Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Matt, what do you read on this?
So I really don't buy into the idea that it's a remake of the GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, because I think that's just way too much of an undertaking. If you want to do it right.
And to make 3 of the same game. Like they're ostensibly the same type of game. That doesn't seem like a really, obviously if they released it as a bundle, that would be a worthwhile thing, but I think if they were trying to stagger those releases or something, that would be a nightmare.
It just seems like a little bit too much. As far as BioShock, the first 2 games did get like definitive editions recently, I'm pretty sure. So that I also don't necessarily see. What I do think is an absolute guarantee is that we're going to get Red Dead 1 rebuilt in the Red Dead 2 engine.
Yeah.
A huge reason why I would say that is because the entire area of Red Dead 1 exists within Red Dead 2 already. So you're really just, putting in NPCs, creating triggers for quests and stuff like that. You already have the lines recorded. Like, I really don't think it would be a difficult thing for them to do. Obviously it takes a lot of time and manpower, but I still don't think it's a massive undertaking. Yep. So I think that seems like a really likely candidate. I really think that that's going to happen. Borderlands, I don't really see anything right now happening. I don't know. Same. I'd be curious though. Maybe I don't know if Take-Two owns the rights to Max Payne. I'm not really sure, but that could be interesting. Do they own the rights to Max Payne? Look it up for me real quick while I'm talking.
100%.
They recently did, the whole Mafia thing. That wasn't completely regarded super well. I know people had some problems with, I think, the Mafia 1 remaster or something like that. So I don't know. They could go. One thing I think people would really like to see, and you too, Paul, is maybe a Bully remaster or remake.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool to see something like that. I don't know if that's going to fly though in 2021. I don't know if they'll bother putting the money into that.
But it is Rockstar. They might just not give a fuck. But I don't know. With Bully, I could totally see it working fairly easily because Bully's not this massive open world. It is a much smaller area. So I think if they wanted to go that route development-wise, I think it it would be a simpler project than some of the other options, but not totally sure. Did you find anything on Max Payne?
Everything I'm seeing seems to be that it's still a Rockstar property. So yeah, so Take-Two should own the rights to that.
Okay, cool. Well, then I could see that happening as well.
Yeah.
That Max Payne has recently come up in a few different areas. They just had an anniversary with Max Payne. Summit 1G is like speed running Max Payne, one of the games. So like there's Max Payne is in the conversation right now. So that could be interesting. I don't really have anything else to say other than I'm interested to see what it ends up being. I do think Red Dead 1 is going to get it, and I would say that Bully is a fairly likely candidate just because of the development process that it would require, but we'll have to see, Paul. I don't know. I definitely don't think it's going to be BioShock.
I think BioShock's an interesting one just because, I mean, that hasn't been touched in a while, and it's a huge brand. And
now, the only reason I would say that is because the next BioShock incarnation is coming sometime. Like,
sometime.
Like, we know that's in development, right? So whether that game is coming in 22, 23, probably going to come within the next 2 years. Maybe they release a remastered the first 3 games.
Anniversary, something. So
we'll see.
Yeah, it's something to check out. I mean, I'm mostly down for some remasters. You know what we could use is another remaster of GTA 5. So let's get another one of those out.
Yeah. Well, it is getting the port.
It's already happening. I know.
Yeah. And the port. GTA Online standalone edition is happening as well.
Okay. That hasn't happened yet? I thought that already happened.
Red Dead has...
Red Dead is its own standalone, yes. All right. Well, moving on to something not altogether surprising. Overwatch 2 seems, I don't know if we can call it pushed back, but certainly people were not expecting this. It's likely supposed to be coming 2023 at the earliest, according to Metro OW on Twitter. At this point, we know what's going on with Blizzard. It's a mess already. But, look at this. Overwatch 1 has gotten very little support pretty much since they've announced Overwatch 2. They're kind of just letting the game sit there. At this point, due mostly to the issues they're having with Activision Blizzard. A lot of sponsors are pulling out of the Overwatch League, which was already kind of a mess of a competitive game tournament.
Yeah.
Overwatch is in a really weird position. In addition, a lot of people are mad over the 1 tank thing, getting rid of the 2 tank meta. That's going to change a lot of the game. So there's a lot going on.
I'm a fan of the change, but,
I'm not.
Really?
I agree with a lot of again, just because I think there's some tanks that are just so necessary and meta and are so drastically better at the tanking role that there's a lot of tank characters who will not get played anymore because there's no off tank option.
That's true. They could change how some of the characters work, I guess, to facilitate that.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Either way, it's a total mess. Matt, you and I both agree at this point. So do many people that this is a glorified update. This is an expansion at best.
Totally.
It's insulting, honestly. Like when they show off, like, look at the new character model for Widowmaker. And it's just like an updated render. It's like, cool. You could have just done an updated, you could have a PS5 version of Overwatch. You need to make it Overwatch 2.
Right.
Like, it's just a ridiculous concept. They're adding some more maps. And then in the wake of having to wait for Overwatch 2, they haven't been doing any sort of real new content for Overwatch 1, which is like leaving the game to die. Which is, a lot of these people who are playing this game, if they're not going to leave because of all the Blizzard drama, then they're going to leave because the game's been abandoned for years. And if you hope they're going to come back for 2, the best way to change it is definitely the best way to ensure that is not to change the game meta too. There's a lot going on with Overwatch. It's just, to me, it seems not surprising at all. They're a company that seems so poorly able to control its staff issues and the things that are going on at Blizzard. It seems pretty believable to me that these games are just getting out of hand and not being properly spent the time with.
Yeah, I don't see this working out very well.
No way.
Think the biggest thing is is your single player stuff so ambitious and so complicated and you're trying to get it to work? Is that the reason why this delay is happening on top of the issues you've already been having as a company? I assume that has to be it. You already have how the multiplayer works. You have the characters. You have the general gameplay. You're essentially making new maps, and you're adding a single player. That's really what this is. And I don't think that updating the visuals is necessarily taking a huge amount of development time.
No,
I wouldn't say, I mean,
it
that's
shouldn't.
on the art team, I'm sure, but not
Yeah.
the actual like game design team. So like what exactly is the deal here? Can they not get the single player stuff right? Is that maybe what's happening?
I mean,
I don't
judging by
know.
other Blizzard properties, single player stories at this point, it's very possible that they're just having trouble making anything that works. Although at least with WoW, they'll ship their bad stories as opposed to waiting 4 years to come out with anything. But I don't know. Yeah, it's just kind of a mess. And when you look at games like Call of Duty and stuff too, at this point, giving like free map packs and updates with free maps, it's even more like one of the major two selling features of this Overwatch 2 is more maps, which like other games are just giving out for free at this point.
Yeah.
Pretty ridiculous to imagine a new box price abandoning an old game, leaving it for years and then kind of going, look, it's two.
If this was 10 years ago, I would say that Overwatch 2 is a likely candidate to get canceled. But because it's Activision Blizzard of today, no matter the state that the game is in, they're going to ship it.
100%. They're a money-making company. They're a money-making machine. That's what they're going to do. So there's no way Bobby Kotick's not going to let them, cancel this game. So
I still think it's going to. I still think the game is going to sell fairly well, just because so many people played Overwatch. Like that, it was a massive game. It still is a pretty massive game. So I think it's going to sell okay, but it's hard to imagine a world in which the reception of this game is really good.
I guess it's just like maybe it'll do okay, but just think of how much better it would have done if they had just continued updating and working on Overwatch, as opposed to making this Overwatch 2 thing,
seriously.
abandoning the game for years. You know, if they had just made like an Overwatch upgraded version for upgraded consoles with some better graphics, and then in the meantime added maps, updated things, updated game modes, added a storyline feature. You could have even like bought an expansion that was a story only expansion that tied into the launcher or something. Like this is stuff you could do without having to make a 2. I think maybe they are going from, which was already a strange decision, making Destiny 2 because it's such a games as a service game. It was kind of weird to make a 2. Maybe, you know, they're coming off of that, seeing Activision seeing that and going like, okay, well, we made a 2 there and that worked out really well, so let's make another 2. Even in a game that really doesn't make sense to make it 2. Anyway, we'll have to see. I feel like all signs are pointing to bad news for Overwatch 2, or for the few Overwatch fans out there. I'm kidding. I know there's a lot. I know it's mostly casual fans, though. That's the thing. I think that's what Overwatch appeals to most people like me who play casually. I think from what I see, as you get into higher ranks and things like that, the game just doesn't hold up super well for playing high skill, because everything just becomes like an alt fest and everything. So
it's a fun game. I feel like you have to really try hard to screw up a sequel to this game.
It's just such a slam dunk game that was really fun and cool and colorful, and the characters were so great. And then I think the one thing people were probably complaining was we don't have enough story on these characters because they're so interesting. And then it took them like 4 years to even come out with anything, and they still haven't come out with it. It's like, just got to write a story, guys. We don't even need like a really long one. Just like drips and drabs would be pretty cool.
Paul, this was announced in 2019.
I know.
We're gonna have likely 4 years between the announcement and the release of a game that is essentially an update, a patch. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely absurd.
It's just, and again, it's just, I just feel like this is just very emblematic of what Blizzard is at this point for so many reasons. It's a mess of a company. So we'll have to see how it goes. Let's talk about it. Yeah, get your shit together, guys. And moving on, talking about a game or a company that's doing very well. Epic put $500 million of their own money into the Epic Games Store, and they are saying they aren't expecting it to be profitable until at least 2027. This is some real Bezos shit right here. This is the long game. And of course, this info comes from, of course, everything that it comes from is the Apple versus Epic legal battle. Also, the Epic versus Google legal battle, which has been coming up a lot, and we're getting a lot of things out of that. That's part of that as well. So this is pretty crazy. I mean, this is, like I said, this is some Bezos shit. I mean, this is Epic going, that's what they used to do with Amazon. Bezos would make a huge revenue and they'd invest like 90% of it back into the company.
Right.
And they would be running at a deficit every year until eventually now they're valued at this insane valuation. And I think that's a smart move, honestly.
If you can do it, yeah. Totally.
I think a lot of people would not have given the Epic Game Store much of a second look. A lot of people still don't even like a ton of people don't like the Epic Game Store. It is hated by a lot of gamers. And yet they give away free games all the time, and even the people who hate it will go on and get their free game. And I feel like that is just like That's amazing. I have the Epic Game Store installed. I barely even use it for anything, but I have it on there so I can get my free games once in a while and go back and play them. I think it's a really smart idea. It's made them almost like a second tier to Steam at this point, out of nowhere. And yeah, I think it's a smart move.
Yeah, so I think that this information comes out. I think it was an Apple lawyer that was going through Epic documents and was telling the court essentially that there was a comparison. Epic was trying to compare, I think, their store to the Apple App Store. And the Apple lawyers were like, what are you talking about? You're not even going to be profitable for at least 6 more years. The Apple App Store is crazy profitable. You're not even making profit.
Yeah,
I think that was the argument that was being made. But yeah, this is crazy. Paul, the number one thing that always blows my mind is that Tim Sweeney still owns the majority of Epic. And because of that, he's like a top 40 richest person in the world. It's so crazy to me.
Yeah, it's super interesting. You just don't see this anywhere. This is wild. This guy has a controlling share of the company, and it's just a single person. It's wild when you get to the valuations they're at.
Also, like it's not like we didn't already know that Fortnite was insanely profitable, but the fact that they have so much confidence in essentially Fortnite and Unreal Engine that they can put all this money down into Epic Game Store and understand that they're not going to be profitable for, I don't know, almost a decade since when it first came out. Like, that is crazy. That is huge confidence in what you're trying to do.
100%.
But let's make the Epic Game Store a little bit better. Add a shopping cart.
That's it. Honestly, like, I think a lot of the people who hate the Epic Game Store partly would probably make a lot of concessions or be okay with it or accept it if the Game Store wasn't such a mess to use. So, I mean, just put a little bit of that money back in, guys. I know it costs a lot to get the rights to all these free games, but still. Also, interesting to note some of these things coming out of the Google versus Epic trial, which is pretty interesting. First, obviously, the big marquee thing, which is that Google did mention wanting to purchase at least some or all of Epic games to ward off some of the competition that they're dealing with them in the Play Store. I thought that was very interesting. Evidently, according to Tim Sweeney, their team was never aware of this. Epic was never made aware of this deal.
Yeah, he tweeted that out. That was wild.
Yeah. Because I mean, we're seeing behind the scenes stuff from Google. So I mean, Google, it's probably just, it seems like it was an internal thing. You know, they were talking in the team. They said, hey, we should maybe make this deal. We should think about this. I think I don't think it's huge news. I think that's obviously, these companies are massive companies. These are some of the biggest companies in the world. So I mean, obviously these companies are looking at every possible thing they can do. Should we do this? Should we do that? Should we buy them? You know, obviously they're going to entertain that notion. So you know, it makes sense. I think one of the craziest thing about the purchase of Epic is actually as like an Android fan, one of the things they were mentioning was it's one of the things that make Android kind of special over iOS is that you can sideload apps still, and you can still get like an APK of an app and an executable and not have to go through the App Store.
Okay.
And Google, and so that's the kind of thing, because like you could get Fortnite from just from the internet on Android. And you can still do that on Android. And essentially, Google said, "Hey, we want to make sure Epic's on the Game Store, not just because whatever, but also because we want to get rid of the side loading problem, because it's so awful, and it's like we don't want any customers dealing with that." Which is kind of funny, because Google's often like kind of talking about how being able to side load apps is like a fun feature of Android, but secretly internally they're like, we'd rather they are on the App Store, which is kind of funny.
If Google tried to buy Epic today, I don't think Epic would do it. I think if it had been,
this was a few years ago.
And if it were a few years ago, and if that offer had come before the Tencent purchase, I think it may have happened, because Epic was clearly looking for an investor, and they got that with Tencent.
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting to think about what things could have been like if Google had gotten some sort of stake in Epic Games. Would the Epic Game Store at some point be abandoned? Like,
yes, that's exactly what happened. They would have stopped developing Fortnite. There would have been 3 other Fortnites that were attempting to replace the original Fortnite, all worse.
Fortnite Plus.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, it's a mess.
Google Plus. That
Yeah.
was the social media, right? Google Plus.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's always the joke on the Android subreddits and stuff is they have like all these chat apps. Hangouts was like the perfect chat app, and then they shut it down, and they just keep updating and coming up with new chat apps, and all of them are slightly worse than the other chat app. And before they even have shuttered the last one, they announced the newest one. There's just too like it's just like Apple figured it out. They have iMessage. Just do that. Just do iMessage.
Yeah, seriously, just do it.
Oh, Google.
Can you get? This is an interesting question. Because I have no idea what the answer is. You've had an Android phone. Can you get an iMessage app on your Android?
Oh, Matt. If you can get an iMessage app on Android, I guarantee you there'd be plenty of people who would never buy an iPhone again. You absolutely cannot. Apple absolutely doesn't let you do that. Now, there is an app. This is the thing. And there are weird people. I don't want to say weird, but like some people who are very dedicated, who just have people in their life who need to use iMessage. There is an app that'll relay because you can still get iMessage to a computer, right, to your Apple ID. So there are people who have like a Mac Mini or a Mac or even just a regular Mac or something, and as long as it's on all the time, there's an app you can get that will relay your iMessages from your computer to your phone on Android.
Jesus.
So there are people who are willing to do that because their entire family has iMessage. And this is mostly a U.S. problem, but their entire family has iMessage, and they hate the green bubble. It ruins group chats, and
ruins families.
So,
friend groups.
I think it literally does, which is ridiculous. But anyway, yeah, there is definitely not an iMessage app on Android. I think there are a ton of, that's like a lot of people on the Android subreddits. They're like, if they just had this one thing, I would be able to go back to Android, but I can't because everyone needs me to use iMessage.
Respect to the OG though, BlackBerry Messenger.
BBM, it was a dream. It was a good time. Do you remember that time? This is the last thing on cell phones, but do you remember that time when BBM started coming to smartphones? They were trying to it was on Android and
that's why I asked, because BBM did have an app and I had it on my iPhone.
That's because they didn't have the market share anymore, so they were just like, fuck it. But Apple knows exactly what they have, and there's no way. And their entire value is based on you have to have our shit to use it. So
true.
It's smart. Moving on, talking about something a little more positive, I think. Talking about Steam Deck, we all love that. Every time there's something about Steam Deck, it's always exciting. It's always positive. I haven't seen any big negative Steam Deck sucks stuff. There's been a ton of Steam Deck stuff coming out to reviewers this week. They've been able to go to a special location and test out Steam Decks, which is really cool. So Linus Tech Tips was able to bring a heat gun, like a temperature thing, a thermometer or whatever, and was able to check the heat on it depending on how many games it was running and do all these tests. They were pretty cool. The only thing they wouldn't let him do was open it up kind of thing, but really cool.
Makes sense.
And all of it was really powerful and it didn't get too hot. It was really impressive. So now we got some more news obviously coming out because they're really giving us a lot on this, which is awesome. Greg Coomer from Valve told PC Gamer that the Steam Deck will be able to stream high performance games for around 8 hours of battery life, so that's pretty cool. I mean, obviously they can give a very consistent amount of battery life for that because it's streaming, so it's always going to be the same kind of technology going through. Now, this is, I think, really important because I think there's a ton of people. I think there's people like me who don't have a high-powered computer and might buy a Steam Deck as a Switch alternative, but I can play more games on it and get more out of that, and maybe use it as a dock. And I think there are people like that. But I think they also, what they really want to capitalize on, I think is I think the Switch thing is an afterthought. And I think the main thing that they kind of would have come up with this maybe 5 years ago was the original dream behind this, is that there's all these people with these massive hundreds of game Steam catalogs who might just want to play it mobile sometimes, might not always be at their computer. And Steam Link and being able to stream like that is a huge selling feature. Streaming games is happening. We have Xbox has their stuff. So I think the idea that you could stream to a dedicated Steam Deck, stream to a Steam Deck for up to 8 hours is pretty wild. That's a really, really good battery life estimate.
Paul, you just gave me an idea.
Yep.
Down the road, can they release the Steam Stream Deck and it's a cheaper product because you're streaming directly to it and you don't have anything locally stored on there? Can this be something that happens in the future?
100%. That's a great idea. I honestly think that would be something they could consider. I think that's one of those things that once we get that, that's when when Xbox starts getting their dongle, that's going to be stream only. I think that's the kind of time we're going to start seeing stuff like the Stream Steam Deck, which is, they might need to talk to Stream Deck about the rights at this point, but they can. I think that's a really good idea. Honestly, is having a streaming.
Oh yeah, Stream Deck. That's an Elgato thing.
Yeah, it is.
But Gaben, you are free to take that idea for free. You don't even have to pay me for it.
That's really nice.
Just put my name in the credits. That's all I ask.
Really, really nice. So pretty cool. Same numbers we're getting for battery life, 2 to 8 hours, depending on the game and the settings. If you're playing it locally on the device, pretty fair. I mean, obviously they can't give very good. You could be playing something really basic, like a text-based game, or you could be playing, Red Dead 2 or something. So, I mean, it really varies. So, I mean, obviously we can't know battery life on that, but it's really cool to see a consistent number on streaming and have it be such a high number, 8 hours.
Yeah. My number one concern with the whole Steam Deck, I only really have one concern, but I think it's a very legitimate concern, is that I just think it's very quickly going to be outdated. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing about PC gaming, is it moves much quicker than console gaming, in regards to the guts of the system, and how with consoles, games are often, at least first and second party stuff obviously, is optimized for the console. So you might be running on older hardware, but it's stuff is created so it can still look better and play better on older hardware. I just worry that this is going to get outdated really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say, I mean, not to like put you on the spot, but I mean, I know, how often have you updated your PC in the last like decade? Once.
Yeah,
twice.
True. But
maybe.
There's a lot of games I couldn't play.
Yes, and there was a period where you couldn't play games. But I mean, think about the price difference on this. This is like we're looking at like a $400 or $500 device. This is like half the price of that. So you could expect to maybe update it twice as often, maybe once every 3 years, and then at that point you're going to be getting. Yeah, I just think we're gonna have to see. I think it's because it's cheaper. It can't really be compared on the same amount of how long you're going to keep it to a PC. Yeah. But I agree about like changing pieces out is a little bit different. It would be nice to be able to have it be something you could open up or change pieces on. I totally understand physically why that doesn't make sense as a handheld device. But
I think I need to stop thinking of it as a handheld console and think of it more as a handheld PC, because that's really what it is. Although, like you said, you can't change the parts out, so it really is a console that's just going to be outdated more quickly. I don't know.
I think it's a console. It's going to be slightly more outdated than a console, quicker, because it doesn't have the optimization. But still, consoles at this point are lasting like 7 or 8 years. If this thing lasts like 3 years for $400 or $500, and you're getting like to be able to play your whole Steam catalog, and like it's running decently well for at least a couple years on some AAA's, I think that's good value. Now it's not value we know of. We haven't had a product that's really like that. I think it's in a weird position being a console like thing, but it's a PC and it's not optimized necessarily for a lot of games. It's very strange. I don't think we've had anything like this, so it's hard to feel it out. But I think the value's there. I think it just matches where it should be price-wise for how much you're going to get out of it. You just have to stop thinking of it as a PC that's worse or something. I think but it is. But I mean, it's like, it's also kind of like a better Switch, but you might, I don't know. You're not going to buy this instead of buying $1,000 PC. It just doesn't make sense. You might, but then you have to accept that, you're going to have to replace that PC every 4 or 5 years. You're going to have to replace this every like 2 or 3 years. And that might just be, but then, the cost. So it's weird. It's a weird device. I love it. I love how weird it is and how nothing else fits in like it.
Yeah. In 3 or 4 years, just give me that $150 or $200 stream only option. And
I think honestly that's a great idea. It also fits into like what you're saying, which is that it could become outdated. If it's a stream option, then it no longer has to really worry about that. You're streaming from your PC, which has updated video cards. Hopefully, in a few years, video cards will be something you can purchase again, and it'll be great. So who knows? It's crazy. I love it. Everything Steam Deck. Send it my way. But also talking about the streaming future, we have to talk about Xbox. Xbox is doing a Gamescom 2021 stream on August 24th at 1 p.m. Eastern, which is pretty cool. We always love a good stream. This one, in-depth updates from some of our previously announced Xbox Game Studios titles. And some third-party stuff, too. So we have a lot of holiday game release stuff. It's a lot like what we were talking about with the opening night live. We're going to get around that time, too. We're going to get a lot of like holiday stuff.
Yeah, it's the next day's opening night live.
So, which is interesting. They actually were there before opening live, which is kind of funny. It's opening night. Come on, guys. Yeah. But Xbox likes to do it a little crazy. So we might. What do you think we might be getting, Matt? I mean, we could get Halo Infinite stuff. I mean, I think it's inarguable we're going to get something Halo Infinite when we're talking about holiday of this year.
Yeah, when they're specifically talking about titles coming to Xbox this holiday, I think that means we're maybe getting a release date for Halo Infinite, or we're gonna maybe find out that they're releasing the multiplayer and the campaign separately, and we're getting the multiplayer first, or something like that. I would like to see Avowed or Fable. I don't
I would love to see
know.
Avowed.
I don't think we're gonna see Avowed. I think Fable's more likely, but I don't
I think
think
the
we're gonna see
opposite. I think
either.
we're going to see
Really?
Avowed. I don't think we're going to see anything on Fable. I just feel like I just think we're never going to. I mean, that's not true, but I think we're going to be. By the time we see anything about Fable, it will become a huge meme. Is my thought. Like it'll be so memed out. I think it's gonna. They just. It already feels like it's been a while, and I think it's gonna become like a famously long thing before we even see it. That's my hot take on Fable.
Did you see what Phil Spencer said last week, where he said Fable is coming before Elder Scrolls 6? Like he came out and said that. Yep. I thought that was a weird thing to say because I thought that was, something that people would commonly assume.
And see, that's why. I mean, I've always thought that Fable's just gonna be a forever wait forever for it. And so that kind of just convinced me once again that like we're kind of like he's like, just so you know, Fable's gonna take forever, but it won't be like that long. Like you'll get it in the next few years, but not like Elder Scrolls, which will be in the next like 5 years. That's my feeling on that.
I think what's weird about Fable is that it's being developed by Playground Games, so that's the Forza Horizon team. So, well, one thing, like the fact that they might be using the Forza Horizon engine to make Fable is mind blowing because that would be amazing.
That would be incredible. I don't know though.
But other than that, like I don't know. I assume Playground has to have multiple teams.
I don't know if they do.
It would be so weird if they go straight from Forza Horizon 5, keep a small team to do updates, and then move into full steam ahead into Fable with that same team who just made a car racing game.
I don't know. That's so strange. I always felt like that was the vibe on that, but
yeah, I'm not sure what the answer is. I would love to see some Avowed, but that game, for whatever reason in my mind, seems like it's just so far off, especially because Obsidian, who they're doing it, right? That's Obsidian.
But yes, it is.
They're doing so much. I just feel like it's all so far off. I don't know. I could be wrong. I would love to see either Avowed or Fable. I'll be happy if we see one of the two. But I definitely think we're getting a Halo Infinite release date.
I agree. I also will say, just interesting note, the Playground Games does have 2 locations in the world so I assume, and they have about 200 plus employees. This is as of 2017 too, before they were purchased by Microsoft. So I'm assuming they have 2 teams. That's probably fair on that point.
No, you're correct. Does it have the locations?
It doesn't say on Wikipedia, but
one is UK
studio. Right? Yeah, one. They're from Leamington. Is their main one. Anyway, worth mentioning. There are a couple teams. So it's a big company too. Before they were even purchased by Microsoft, they had a lot of employees. So I think we could see. We might be right. Might see Fable before Avowed, but I'm not holding my breath for either at this point. But I would be excited to see either because they're both games I'm psyched for. Finally, moving into one last bit of Xbox news, talking about something that came out before this Xbox event. Forza Horizon 5's full map was revealed by Playground Games on Twitter. It's pretty cool. They had like a video. They went through everything, and then they were like, someone was like, map reveal, and then they went, okay, and they showed off the whole map. I don't know if you watched the video map, but it was so cool. They scrolled through the whole thing and talked about the different. Yeah, so they said afterwards they uploaded an HD link, and that's the one that was on Twitter. But they had it was like during an event they were talking about it, and then someone said, oh, can we show off the map? And they said, sure, let's show off the whole thing. So they scrolled around the whole map and they went through and they showed off some of the areas. Looks really, really cool. It's supposed to be 1.5 times the size of Forza Horizon 4's map. So it is bigger, but also a lot of detail. Really cool coast on both sides. I'll say I'm someone who's such a American Southwest into like Mexico. That's one of my favorite biomes. And so this is so cool to me. I mean, on the one coast you have like dunes. The other coast it's more like a forested coast. There's like the big volcano in the middle. They have the biggest highway they've put in any of the Forza Horizon games. So it goes almost from one corner of the map to the other end, like a big highway, which is really, really cool with like, the cloverleaf interchanges and everything. So
nice.
Pretty cool. There aren't always a lot of highways in the game. So that's actually pretty neat to check out.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a lot of like, it's a lot of traversal, like small roads that are off to the sides and things like that, especially because it's a lot of European stuff sometimes, or like, Australia was different, but. So yeah,
Forza Horizon 4. That's the one in England, right?
That's in England. Yeah.
Now, I feel like I should have realized this going into it, but when I was playing the game recently, I was like, "Oh yeah, I gotta drive this car on the other side of the road, or I'm constantly going to be running into oncoming traffic."
Yeah, it's weird. That was one kind of fun thing about playing in Forza Horizon 2, which was in like mainland Europe, because you were on the right side, which was nice.
Was the original one Colorado?
I never played 1, so I can't tell you. I know 2 was when they really kind of opened up and did the same. They've done the same game ever since, basically, as 2. But 1 was a little different.
Okay.
I think it was, though. I think you're right. But I love it. Great game series. Psyched for it. So bring it on. It's so cool to see the full map. I just love these. A lot of these companies are just kind of coming out and just going, hey, sure, let's show some stuff off. It's the same thing I love about the Steam Deck. They're just like, hey, yeah, we're not releasing till next year. We just talked about it. We just announced it like a month ago. But here's a bunch of stuff. Sure, why the heck not? Like, let's just show you. Like, it's cool. I love transparency. Totally. Really cool. Speaking of transparency, I'll be transparent with you at home for a moment. We here at Goodnight Groofs love making Game Groofs, GG Replay. We love doing the blog, the website, goodnightgroofs.com. And, any of you guys listening or watching at home, we appreciate it so much. And also, if you can give us anything else, we really appreciate it. We do have a Patreon, patreon.com/goodnightgroofs. Check it out. We have a $1, $3, and $5 tier. $3 tier is like kind of the golden value, which gets you early access to Game Groofs and some other stuff too. Which is really, really cool. Max value. It gets you, which Game Groofs, by the way, is our all-encompassing gaming podcast. Usually comes out Sundays, but you can watch it on Friday if you are a Patreon. So feel free to check that out.
If our Patreon ever hits $25,000 a month, which it never will, I think that would be the biggest Patreon by far. I'll change my name to Max Value.
Wow, that's really great. I love that. I'm gonna change my name just to make it confusing to Matt Value.
Oh, okay.
So then they'll think it'll be confusing. I'm confused already. So yeah, feel free, toddle on over to our website, goodnightgroofs.com. Take a look at it. It's pretty nice looking. And, check out the Patreon. It's kind of up to you, but obviously, take a look around. You might see some value in it if you like listening to our stuff or watching our shows. We have a lot of great ideas for content that we just need a little bit more money to be able to produce. And we'd love to be able to show everyone what that is like. Maybe we'll make some proofs of concept. Maybe that'd be a cool idea. Ooh. It's like, hey, look, check out this cool show. We can't make this all the time because we don't have any money, but like, if you gave us some, we could make more of these.
Yeah, that would be that's a prototype.
Yeah, like we could do like an investor trailer sizzle reel for people.
Ooh, we should do it at like we're doing at a pitch meeting too.
Yeah, that'd be funny. Like do like a skit. These are great ideas. Okay, so we'll come up with something just to give you an idea of what the value is. Put that right in our Patreon for free. You can just like see it and see if you're interested. Awesome. Also, if you're listening to this on a podcast app, thank you, because it's always good. Helps the algorithms. This show is an audio podcast as well as a video podcast. And if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts specifically, it would be great if you could drop a 5-star review because that really helps with the algorithm. But even if you listen to us on any other podcast app, reviews, ratings, thumbs up, whatever you guys can give us, we really, really appreciate it because it just helps push us to the top, helps us reach more of your beautiful faces and ears, and you can enjoy everything that we have to make. Matt, do you have anything else to say before we sign off for the day?
No, I'm just I'm off to go play an off tank in Overwatch while I still can.
It's time. Orisa can only exist so much longer. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this GG Replay for Monday, August 9th, 2021. Good night, Groofs.